What's up everyone, I'm Eldrage and it's time to look at...
Oh my god, so many torpedoes!
The Kitakami was a Kuma-class light cruiser. She was laid down on the 1st September of 1919, launched on the 3rd July of 1920, and was commissioned in April of 1921. She was based at Mako, Pescadores Islands, until the mid-1930s, at which point she was assigned to cover the landings of Imperial Japanese forces in central China during the Sino-Japanese War. On the 25th of August 1941, Kitakami returned to Sasebo for torpedo cruiser conversion, which were completed 1 month later, and she was then assigned to the Japanese First Fleet. During the Battle of Midway on the 29th of May 1942, the Kitakami was part of the Aleutian Screening Force, and after conclusion of the battle she returned safely to Japan on 17th of June 1942. In August of 1942 she was once again converted to a fast transport. 4 of the torpedo mounts were taken off, leaving the ship with a total of 24 torpedoes, and 2 landing craft were installed. Kitakami escorted supply and troop convoys for 2 years, after which she was once more converted into a Kaiten carrier, armed with so-called human torpedoes. The remaining torpedo mounts were stripped to make room for the Kaiten. On the 24th of July 1945, Kitakami was strafed during an American aircraft carrier assault and was damaged. 32 of her crewmen died. After the surrender of Imperial Japan, she was used as a repair tender for repatriation. After 24 years of service and multiple refittings, Kitakami was decommissioned on the 30th of November 1945 and was scrapped a year later. For the stats, we're obviously going to compare the Kitakami to the other 2 Tier 8 cruisers in the game, the New Orleans and the soon-to-be Tier 8 Mogami. There's really not much use comparing the Kitakami to the Miyoko, because in a few short days or weeks, the Miyoko will be a Tier 7 ship and the Mogami will be the Tier 8 ship, and it is very likely that they will keep all of their stats. Now I will also have to preface this by saying that obviously the Kitakami is going to lose out in pretty much every category because the Kitakami is a Kuma class light cruiser. We are comparing a Tier 4 ship to Tier 8 ships. In the survivability category there is absolutely no contest. The Mogami has the most hit points, and the New Orleans definitely has the better armor profile, especially because her bow and aft are decently armored as well. The bow and aft of the Mogami are very susceptible to damage. The Kitakami is a Tier 4 ship, and in comparison terrible. In the category of speed, the Kitakami just slightly edges out its competition, but really just barely. With 36 knots it's a tiny little bit faster than the Mogami, and a respectable 3 knots faster than the New Orleans. And because the ship is slightly shorter, it's going to respond to turns a little bit better. The rudder shift times are very comparable on these 3 ships. In concealment, the Mogami is actually stealthier than the Kitakami. Not by much, but it is slightly stealthier, and that is so incredibly sad. The Mogami has a very respectable surface detection range of 10.8 kilometers. Remember how everyone makes a huge fuss about the Yubari having 9.9 kilometers? The Kitakami with 11.3 and the New Orleans with 12.4 are still not bad for cruisers, but it is a slight edge for the Mogami. Their air detection range moving between 7.4 and 7.6 kilometers does not constitute a significant difference. Now when we look at guns, do we even have to talk about this? I mean, the Kitakami is a Tier 4 cruiser, but it doesn't even have the same amount of guns as it does at Tier 4. 1500 AP DPS is so incredibly low. The Kitakami has a lower DPS than the Lolbany. And what's even worse, we're comparing it to the Mogami, a ship that when you use the basic guns has the 3rd highest DPS in the entire game. And the New Orleans, which also has a very respectable DPS. On the other hand, the Kitakami has a very nice turret traverse speed. In anti-aircraft we once again see that the Kitakami is a Tier 4 cruiser, and as such not comparable to Tier 8 cruisers. The New Orleans, when all its guns are firing, does 4 times the DPS of the Kitakami. And even the Mogami, with its notoriously bad Japanese anti-aircraft equipment, is still superior to the Kitakami. 84 DPS at 3 kilometers range just doesn't do all that much at Tier 8. It's going to take you over 10 seconds to shoot down 1 torpedo bomber of an Essex. While secondary guns aren't amazingly important on cruisers, the Kitakami, of course, once again loses. Only having a single double mount of 127mm guns, it might as well not have any. especially when compared to the quite respectable secondary armament of the Mogami and the New Orleans. And now let's talk about torpedoes, the specialty of the Kitakami. Yes, the Kitakami has a total of 40 torpedoes. Well, in the same way that a Clemson has 12 torpedoes, you have a total of 10 mounts of 4 torpedoes each, but 5 of those mounts on each side. So you can really only bring 20 torpedoes to bear at any point. The Kitakami carries exactly the same torpedoes as the Mogami, just that for some reason it has a 36-second longer reload on those torpedoes. But it of course has a lot more of them. Furthermore, it was historically equipped with the Type 93 long lance torpedoes, and for some reason isn't in the game. All of this translates to the Mogami and the New Orleans receiving 1 point each for their way better armor. The Kitakami is a tier 4 ship. Its armor sucks in comparison to these other two. And it has 13,000 less hit points, which means the Mogami and New Orleans have 50% more hit points than the Kitakami. Now I'm giving the category of speed to the Kitakami, but really it's such a slight improvement over the other two, it's barely worth noting. And then comes detectability, and the Kitakami can't even win here. It is such a low tier ship and it's so small, and still the Mogami is stealthier. Not by a whole lot, but enough. And so I'm giving a point to the Mogami just to make the Kitakami cry. Pfft, the guns. I mean seriously, if a ship has less DPS at tier 8 than the Lolbany at tier 2, then there really is no discussion about the guns. No matter what the range, or the traverse speed, or the shell damage, it's just going to suck. And so with the third highest DPS in the game and overall decent characteristics, I'm giving this category to the Mogami. And I'm taking a point from the Kitakami, because just not giving it a point would put it in the same boat as the frickin' New Orleans. Anti-aircraft guns immediately goes to the New Orleans. It has so much DPS on its anti-aircraft, it's ridiculous. The Mogami is still slightly better than the Kitakami, but not by a whole lot. And while the Mogami and the New Orleans have better secondary guns than the Kitakami, this category just isn't important enough for a cruiser to really make a difference in the scoring. And the category of torpedoes goes to the Kitakami, for having 14 more torpedoes per side than the Mogami, even though it has a longer reload. Congratulations, Kitakami! Yay! So the one thing you can do with the Kitakami that you can't do with any other ship is lay these really big, extreme torpedo blankets, like I'm doing right here. The problem with these blankets is that oftentimes they're complete overkill, because the kind of situation where these blankets would be really good, like if you were to encounter an entire fleet formation of warships and just fire a huge spread of torpedoes into them, that doesn't happen in World of Warships, practically ever. Even if you play against skilled divisions, they would not clump up that much, especially if they know that there's a Kitakami. So what real advantage do you have? This is the only blanket I ever fired in my games that actually did something. Because usually you just fire at 1 or 2 ships, like I did here, 2 ships in sight, and it just doesn't do anything. So I fire at this Mogami that's hiding around the mountain. It completely bypassed the Mogami and accidentally hits this poor Amagi, who happens to just come by and be in the middle of the spread. But still, killing 1 battleship? That's nothing a destroyer couldn't have done. I've got 2 replays set up today because, oh my god, Kitakami produces the most boring replays you have ever seen. You have no idea. When you have a ship that relies so heavily on just torpedoes that have over a 2-minute cooldown, you literally just spend so much time driving around doing nothing and just looking for where you can dump your torpedoes. It's just, oh, it's so boring. Anyway, I only played 2 decent games in the Kitakami, and this is one of them. After maneuvering around and trying to figure out where I should attack, I finally get into this position where I think I have the chance to drop a nice carpet into these 3 advancing idiots. The thing I've realized with the Kitakami is that this carpet thing just isn't that good. People just aren't clumped up enough, so I played a bit more like Destroyer. And oh look, there's another Destroyer I can shoot with my... Oh my god, what is he doing right there? Shoot him fast, come on! Okay, shoot him with the guns until the... Okay, now, shoot him with the torpedoes! Ah! And I unload 3 quick salvos? Oh, come on, please don't slow down. Just keep going. Just do it, come on. Yes! That was good. Okay, now to deal with this disgusting little destroyer. Fire some torpedoes just in case, but nope, he blows up from my fire damage that I did. So that was pretty sick. Uh-oh. Guy, careful. Oh my god. Don't. Yep. So I'm stuck here now, because getting unstuck with the Kitakami takes forever, because it's so slow and lumbering. But this is the thing, you know, you kind of have to play the ship like a destroyer, because the carpets don't really help your team all that much. But it's just not maneuverable enough for a destroyer, so you just end up getting into these situations where you get stuck on friggin' islands. And you're also so close to the opponent and so, you know, big and nice of a target that you just don't really survive these engagements very long. So either you just outright kill them with your torpedoes, like I did, or you die. It's pretty much how every engagement with the Kitakami goes. It's a very binary thing. Either you're close enough and you surprise them enough so that you actually get the kills with your torpedoes, or you don't and then you just died. Because you just don't have the guns to pick up the slack, you know? Without guns, you're just, yeah. All you have is the torpedoes. I lay another carpet, but I don't actually have a whole lot of hope that it's going to do anything. Battleship captains at this tier have wisened up to torpedoes. They're not that easy to hit anymore. Luckily, I dodged this spread just barely. And do I get by that one? Oh, no, I get hit by one of them. Damn it. I thought I dodged them, but apparently I did not. Anyway, I fire my last couple of torpedoes at this guy, because I'm pretty sure at this point that I'm going to die, one way or the other, because, yeah, like, what are you going to do with the Kitakami? You're slow and have no armor. Oh, there's my death. Good, okay. Goodbye, cruel world. The second one, we're actually joining 5 minutes in. For the first 5 minutes of this game, I saw one guy and fired one salvo at him, and then I had to run away. Kitakami, why are you so boring? Anyway, once again in this game, I decided to play it as a destroyer. I just gave up on the whole torpedo support, carpet bombing, whatever the frack you want to call it, and just go ham and go forward and try to kill someone with torpedoes. And I followed this destroyer all the way up to here because I thought, hey, you know, if I load destroyer, I might be able to help me as a destroyer out, you know, with some smoke. Because my destroyer doesn't have any smoke. Crazy. Pour a bunch of fire into this guy, not that it's, you know, any good. The poopy pop guns. But some fire into a Sims is always good. Or is it a Mahan? Could be a Mahan. Could even be a Benson. I'm actually not entirely sure. Either way, I'm pretty sure that at this point he has fired his torpedoes, so I'm slowing the hell down. Just in case. And oh, wouldn't you know it, there they come. Still firing at him. Here come his friggin' torpedoes. Oh, it's 10 torpedoes, so he's definitely a Fletcher. And I dodge all of his torpedoes. Suck on that, Fletcher. Oh, and there's his friend in the... is it a Pensacola or a New Orleans? I'm not entirely sure. It doesn't matter. It's an American cruiser. And I fire the remaining torpedoes I have on that side. And just shoot him some more, because why not? And at this point I'm really just praying that my torpedoes get there before I die. And... I don't know. Will it happen? So funny. But now I have a problem, because I can't just turn left here, because I will run into that mountain. So I have to turn right and then either go around that little island or make a full circle and go back through that opening, unless I want to go all the way around the mountain. So I decide to go close to the island in the middle and then make a wide berth and just do a complete 360. Meanwhile, I'm still firing at this little plane, which of course means I'm spotted, and uh-oh. Oh no. Oh, this is bad. Oh. Foiled. So what's my opinion on this ship? Well, firstly, it's the biggest, slowest, most boring destroyer I have ever played. Because a cruiser, this is not. If you're asking if this is worth getting, the short answer is no. Long answer, no. If you think the huge torpedo carpets are funny, and if you don't care if you sometimes hit your own teammates, and if you think that's hilarious, you know, if you're just a troll, get this ship. This is probably the best troll ship you could ever get. Because not only are you very likely to sometimes hit your own team, accidentally, you're also really, really useless. I think this is just as much of a waste of gold as the Albany. And if Wargaming ever wants to make this ship useful, there are really only two options to do it. Option the first, leave it as is and move down to tier 6. Maybe tier 7, but probably tier 6. Option the second, give it the Type 93 long lance torpedoes with 20 km range that it's actually supposed to have. And then leave it at tier 8. With those torpedoes, you could actually do some area denial, while keeping yourself safe. But since your torpedoes only have 10 km range, you always have to put yourself in so much danger against ships that can literally one-shot you, that it just ends up not being worth it. If you enjoyed this review, please consider liking and subscribing, and if you have any feedback, feel free to leave it in the comments. My next video will be a bunch of random gameplay, and on Saturday I'll review the Aurora. But until then, I've been Eldridge, Master Donkey, and I'll see you in another video.